Hi guys, I'm back and I'm going to give you a lesson on the grammar of can and can't. This lesson is from Unit 8, Lesson 3. Let's start by looking at the textbook. In Unit 8, Lesson 3, on page 150, you're going to see this little table. And this talks about, on the top, affirmative and negative sentences. Another way to say this is positive and negative sentences. So you can see the examples like, you can stock shelves, Manny can stock shelves, or we can stock shelves. These are positive sentences. On the other side are negative sentences like, I cannot speak Chinese, or they cannot speak Chinese. Sometimes we use can't in the same place as cannot. So maybe she can't speak Chinese. Positive and negative sentences. And in the bottom is talking about questions and answers. So in this presentation, I'm going to divide it into two parts. One part about positive and negative sentences, and one part about questions. Let's start with positive and negative. Imagine that you're applying for a job as a postal worker. In your interview for that job, you might say, I can drive. I can walk long distances. I can speak 2 languages. Each of these sentences has 2 verbs, a helping verb and a main verb. Can is the helping verb, and drive and walk and speak are the main verbs. So usually the main verbs have an action related to them or something that you can picture in your mind. Usually the helping verbs are small words that go next to the main verbs, and we use them for grammatical reasons. Then there's a little note in your book called Grammar Watch, and here at the top it says use can plus the base form of the verb. Here's an example. I can drive. So here I have the verb can, and then when I say drive, I use the base form of the verb. Base form just means, the verb without anything extra. So that's the correct way to write this sentence next to can. If I say I can to drive, that's incorrect. The reason it's incorrect is because it's breaking this rule. To drive is not the base form of the verb because it has this extra to. So when you put the word to, suddenly that sentence is wrong. The best way is I can drive. Again, with I can driving, this is the sentence that students often say, but it is incorrect. The reason it's incorrect is because this has this extra ing at the end of the word. You can't put anything extra on this verb. It just has to be the base form. Now, imagine that same job of a postal worker. You can see these workers are working hard. In your interview for that job, you might say, I can lift 40 pounds, but I cannot lift 50 pounds. When you make the sentence negative, the word not goes in the middle of the helping verb and the main verb. Take a look. Over here in the first part of the sentence, I can lift 40 pounds. I have the helping verb and the main verb. That's a positive sentence or a positive clause. In the second half of the sentence, I cannot lift 50 pounds. I still have a helping verb and a main verb, but I have not in the middle. And that's the rule, that in order to make a negative, the negative word not always comes in the middle between the helping verb and the main verb. The helping verb can and the adverb not sometimes go together to make a contraction. In speaking, this happens almost 100% of the time. I can lift 40 pounds, but I cannot lift 50 pounds. I take away the letters N and O, like this, and I put an apostrophe in their place. This becomes can't. So from the word not, the only thing I keep is the letter T, and I say can't. That means the same as cannot. I can lift 40 pounds, but I can't lift 50 pounds. Both of these ways of making negative sentences are grammatically correct. I cannot work on the weekends. Another way to say this with the contraction is I can't work on the weekends. I cannot handle phone calls. Also can be said, I can't handle phone calls. And I cannot use a cash register, but I can learn. You can say the same sentence, I can't use a cash register, but I can learn. All of those sentences are correct. Can't is almost always the best or the most normal choice for speaking, and then we use the separated words, cannot, a little bit more in writing. So let's do a little bit of practice. This is a little part of a job application where the applicant's name is Sandy DeAlvarez. She's the person who wants a job, and the application asks, please check the language skills that you have. And you can see some of the boxes are checked. Can you write 6 sentences to describe Sandy's language skills? So if it has a check mark, the sentence is going to be positive. And the first example would be Sandy. And with the verb speak, we will say can speak English. Sandy can speak English. So I want you to take a minute, pause this video, and write down 6 sentences to explain Sandy's skills with English and Sandy's skills with this other language, Spanish. Are you ready to continue? These were the sentences that I wrote. She can speak English. She can read English. She can write English. She can speak Spanish. She can't read Spanish, and she can't write Spanish. So the main verb in all of these sentences is in the base form. If you wrote in your sentences speaking or to speak, that's not correct, so please fix it. And then here, for the negative sentences, in your sentences, if you wrote the word not, that's also correct. So this can say, she can not read Spanish, or she can not write Spanish. Let's do one more practice. This is a different woman with a different job application. The application says, please check the skills that you have. So I want you to write sentences about these 4 things. Pause the video now, take out a notebook and a pen or a pencil, and write 6 sentences based on this. Are you ready to continue? In your sentences, you should have, she can't use a computer. She can answer the phone. She can record information. She can operate a forklift. She can sort materials. And she can't lift up to 50 pounds. Again, check your answers to make sure that the main verb is always in the base form. And for the negative sentences, if you wrote can't is correct. If you wrote cannot is also correct. So we've talked about sentences with can. It's time to talk about how to make a question with can. With questions, you have to be very careful about the word order. So when we ask a question about someone's abilities, we change the order of the words. We move the helping verb can to the front. This is what it looks like. In a sentence, I say, you can type fast. I have my helping verb and main verb, can type. When I make the question, I take can and I put it at the front of this question. So I say, can you type fast? Can you type fast? So we can tell that this is a question because it starts with this funny little phrase that's in a different order. Can you? Here's another example. The sentence is, you can take care of children. But if I don't know this information and I want to ask a question, I'll move the helping verb to the beginning of the question. Can you take care of children? Can you take care of children? Let's do one last practice and then we'll be done. I want you to imagine that someone is applying for a job as a home care nurse for an elderly person. What questions does the employer want to ask? So I'm going to give you some actions that this person does in their job, and I want you to make a question about if a person can do it. Prepare food. Did you get, can you prepare food? The next one, help her get dressed. What's the question? Can you help her get dressed? Number 3, help her use the computer. How do you make this into a question? Can you help her use the computer? Lift up to 70 pounds. Can you lift up to 70 pounds? Take blood pressure. Can you take blood pressure? So now you've learned how to make positive and negative sentences and how to make questions with the word can. I want you to go on now to the exercises in the book and hopefully they'll be easy. Talk to you later.